You're a late bloomer lesbian wondering how the hell to navigate this new world of queer dating. I'm going to show you the 4 biggest mistakes I see newly out queer women and femmes make, and how to make the transition into queer dating smoother. You can have the queer dating life of your dreams, so let's break down how to do it. By the way, I'm Danny, I'm a queer sexologist, and I specialize in guiding the Sapphic community through intimacy blocks like shame and trauma into confidence, ease, and freedom in and out of the bedroom. Let's define what a late bloomer lesbian is. There isn't a strict definition or age that qualifies you as a late bloomer, but I'm going to give you a couple examples. I came out at 25 and I identified as a late bloomer lesbian because I had been married to a man since I was 18. I already had this whole identity and experience in life built around my presumed heterosexuality. So when I came out, I felt late in the sense that I had already done all this building with someone that ended up not being the path that was actually true for me. A friend and I were on the topic, and I told her that I identified that way. She kind of scoffed at me, was like, sorry, I'm not trying to be rude, but I mean, I'm 38, so you don't know what it's like in my situation. I can really understand that. To me, anyone who has spent a significant part of their life unaware of their sexuality or experience a lot of firsts and milestones with a gender that they're not actually attracted to, right? Like having sex for the first time, making out, going on dates, buying a house together, having kids together, getting a pet together. These people may have the felt experience of being a late bloomer lesbian. So let's get into mistake number 1, and that is assuming that it is too late for you. So a lot of this feeling, I believe, comes from brainwashing that we get from society that as women specifically, we are only valuable from 16 to 22. After that, we're gross and old and over the hill. We get all this messaging that we are no longer valuable or attractive or sexy when we are older. And I'm not even talking 75, even like someone in their 30s can feel like they are over the hill, unfortunately. So it's easy to feel like all your good years are wasted, or you wasted your youth, or you missed your window to date women because of your age. I saw this story on Reddit that someone shared, and I feel like it really captures this. So I'm going to read it. I turned 40 this year and finally came out as a lesbian, and it's been so much more difficult than I imagined. Being new to this at this age just feels impossible now. I don't even have a good excuse as to why it took me so long, but I'm feeling like the opportunity for me to date has passed me by. Just wishing I would have come out sooner so I could have a chance to find love. This makes me really sad, but I also understand why this person would be feeling this way. I want to touch on when they said, I wish I would have come out sooner. And so this whole idea of being a late bloomer lesbian, I use that term because it's just an easy identifier to relate to people with their experiences. But the idea of being late to something, I want to say that you came out when you felt safe enough and supported enough and resourced enough to do so. So for me, of course, I didn't come out when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, whatever, because I was in a high control religious group. I was married to a man. I was in a very anti-gay, anti-queer, anti-sex environment. So of course, my subconscious would shove that way, way down because it wasn't safe for me. I didn't have a support system or the confidence in myself to support me coming out in that environment. So yeah, I did a lot of things before I came out, but also I came out when I felt ready and when I felt safe. And that's not always a conscious decision. Oftentimes you realize these things about yourself, right? Your body is allowing you to realize this stuff about yourself when you feel resourced enough to deal with whatever reaction you may get. I just want to clarify, it's a fun, cute term, late bloomer lesbian, but you're not actually late to anything. You didn't miss the boat. Also, if you are thinking of that Modest Mouse song, because I just said miss the boat, then you are my people and you should leave me a comment. I feel like the idea of being late is influenced by the this cultural narrative that if you're gay, you will have known since the day you were born, and then you were just quote unquote in the closet the whole time. That was a really common narrative when I was growing up in the late 90s, early 2000s, that people stay in the closet. But I never identified with that. So I think the expectations of when you are aware of your sexuality need to be way more flexible and way more fluid and we can't expect everyone to know their sexuality right out of the womb. For some people, they do. And for a lot of us, it doesn't work like that. We have a lot of conditioning and shame and trauma to peel back and self-exploration that we need to do. And sometimes that takes a lot of time. So there's nothing wrong with you if you are coming out now. It's never too late to make connections, to learn new intimacy skills, and to feel joy and pleasure. There's no time limit on that. That is societal bullshit. And you deserve the connection and the pleasure and the relationship that you want now, no matter your age. And you can have that too. Your queer dating journey really starts with shifting that idea that you're washed up and it's too late for you, because you're not. If you can get on board with me on that part, that it's not too late for you and that joy and pleasure is possible for you in this new queer life, you're already starting out strong. Living with trauma also often causes people to come out later because they have been dissociated from their body and their desires for so long. That was the case with me. If that resonates with you, I've created a free quiz below to understand how trauma is impacting your intimacy and also how to work with your nervous system so that intimacy can feel more safe and comfortable. That's linked below. Mistake number 2 that I see late bloomer lesbians make is expecting the world to match your excitement. Often you realize you're gay, you come out, it's like, oh my God, this brand new world, excited about all this possibility, and that's amazing. And the world at large, the people around you, may not have that same level of excitement for you. I want to be really honest about this part because I didn't hear anyone talking about this, and it honestly shocked me when I came out and got some of the reactions that I did. So I just want to level with you, not to scare you, but just to give you a realistic idea of experiences that you may have as a newly out lesbian. So some people, perhaps from your old life, will feel like you're being selfish. New people that you meet may give you unsolicited opinions about it being a phase and something that you'll just get over and you'll regret it. Strangers and people that you know alike may project their fears onto you of making mistakes and the potential fallout. It's easy for this to plant doubt in your mind. The trivializing of you stepping into your queerness, a big part of it is, again, the societal narrative of women needing to be selfless and to serve their family, serve their husbands, self-sacrificing, putting others first. So having the audacity to actually speak up and say, hey, I actually don't want this. I want this now. I actually am attracted to women. I want to be in queer relationships. I'm happier here. This feels right for me. That can ruffle some feathers because a lot of people don't know many women who pursue what they actually want instead of disappearing and turning into a needs fulfillment machine for other people, their family, their friends, their partners. So the patriarchal idea of a woman's place, a woman's job, does not align with you choosing yourself and your own desires at the cost of other people. So the world will have a lot of opinions about you coming out later in life. They likely have not known the power of a woman's joy and a woman's pleasure when she herself is fulfilled and happy. How much good she can do for the people that she loves, for herself, for her family, for her friends, when she is being authentic in her desires and living in a way that brings her deep pleasure and satisfaction. So there's often a lot of very deep good girl conditioning to unpack here. So when I first came out, I had a lot of experiences where, I mentioned it and people were just like, cool, and they just moved on, right? How it should be, didn't make a big scene about it. But I also had a lot of experiences that were deeply uncomfortable, and I felt like a newborn baby with a soft skull because I was already dealing with all of the turmoil within myself, with the life I left behind, with the people that I had hurt. So I was already feeling really sensitive. So let's cover weirdo behavior from strangers as well as from within the queer community that you might run into, illustrated by some of my own personal examples. I live in Denver, Colorado, so very liberal. I feel very safe here. Huge queer community. I wasn't really expecting any type of slights, I guess. But one time I walked to this bar by myself. This guy came over to me. We were just talking, whatever. I was kind of lonely, so I was like, oh, cool. Someone to talk to, just hang out with. We got on the topic of dating men somehow. I don't really remember. And I was like, oh, actually, I'm a lesbian. And he was like, oh, well, have you ever been with a girl? He kept asking me questions as if he needed to, he didn't believe me, number one, because I'm femme presenting, which I've made a whole other video on that, about trying to feel queer enough as a femme presenting person. I'll link that below. But he just hit me with this barrage of questions, with this energy of I needed to prove to him that I was a lesbian. It's like, I don't even fucking know you, dude. At that point, I wasn't great at standing up for myself, especially to men. So I just like sat there and was being quizzed by him. It was fucking awful. And I remember I went in the bathroom and I felt like crying because I just felt like, see, nobody believes me. And it's really hard to feel confident in your newly queer identity when the world around you or the people in your vicinity aren't validating you, aren't saying, yeah, I believe you, I see you, great. A separate occasion, I was at this party. I didn't know these people super well, but they seemed nice enough, whatever. Two girls there found out that I was gay and they were bisexual, apparently. They came up and bounced my boobs. I was stunned and I didn't really know what to do because I had never had a woman treat me that way before. But for some reason, when they found out that I was gay, they thought it gave them permission to touch me as if I would like it because they happen to be women. There are some different biases that you'll run into in the queer community as well. So as a late bloomer, you may run into people who think you're just straight and you're experimenting, or they may invalidate your queerness since you have slept with men before. The thing I say to that is, if a queer person is turning against you as another queer person, they're not your people, right? We don't need to eat each other alive in our own community. The world is hard enough on us. We need to support each other, even if someone else's experience is not our experience. All these responses were really just weighing on me emotionally and just draining me. And so, I had that experience, which I feel like a lot of you may be able to relate to. I'm laying in bed late at night after another woman on a dating app ghosted me. And I'm sitting there wondering if blowing up my whole stable life with a man who was nice enough was worth all this pain and gut-wrenching fear of entering this world as a queer person so raw and so vulnerable and fresh. And that's real. And it's okay. Just because you feel that fear and that panic and you're crying on your floor, it doesn't mean that you've made the wrong decision. For most people that I talk to, and for myself, I spent years grappling with this sexual identity in one way or another. So I know that when I finally came to this decision, it was a long time coming. Your brain may try to twist what's going on and torture you with the what ifs. What if I'll be alone forever? What if I made a mistake? What if it's too late for me? But remember that likely your brain did that to you before you came out too, just with being queer. What if this? What if this? The fear doesn't mean that you're wrong. It means that you're just in unfamiliar territory. You came out for a reason. So ride the waves of the unknowns, the ups and the downs. Reinventing yourself is not easy, but a few years from now, you're going to look back and be like, damn, I really did that. Be really specific about who you surround yourself with your friends and supportive people. Even if it's just people online, you can watch videos of people that are queer and supportive just to strengthen that sense of, oh, this is normal and this is okay, because I didn't do any of that and I just expect the world to just embrace me, and that's not what happened. So mistake number 3 is ignoring the grief. There are things in life that maybe at one point you thought you were going to have, perhaps support from your friends and family, that maybe got taken away, or the grief of an easier life, of having a more traditional family that the world was built for. Maybe you grieve the ease of getting pregnant. And not all straight people are able to get pregnant easily, but a lot of them are. And a lot of them have oopsie babies. And maybe now you feel sad that you'll have to start a family in other ways. And the grief, like we talked about before, not having those first milestone experiences, there's grief to that as well. There's grief that it took so long. There's grief that of all the things you endured that you maybe didn't like or didn't want, but just thought that you had to do. So this goes really deep and it can feel scary to touch in on it. I remember this feeling of, if I start crying, I don't think I'll be able to stop. If I start to feel this, I think it's going to swallow me and I won't be able to get out. And that makes a lot of sense because socially there aren't a lot of spaces or relationships where grief can be held and witnessed and supported without someone trying to fix, or, oh, it'll be okay, or it's not that bad, or have you tried this? For someone to sit there with you in your grief, that can be really hard to find. And it's also a very specific type of grief that not everybody understands. So it's really important to process these emotions instead of shoving them down, because it will come out sideways. It has for me in many different ways. And I see this with a lot of new lesbians, is they drink a lot. So they'll go out, get really drunk, and end up breaking down on the dance floor because their stuff is bubbling up to the surface. And it's not a supportive environment for someone to hold those feelings with them. They're just in a club that's loud with a bunch of strangers. And everyone's like, oh, there's the drunk girl. But actually, for her, these emotions are bubbling up. It's hard to watch and it's hard to feel as well. And I've also seen lesbians who come out and then find themselves continuing to sleep with men, even though they don't really want to, because they haven't fully accepted that their life with their privileges and familiarity and support of being in a straight relationship, that those are over. And I've seen people trying to still grasp at that feeling, that male validation. I've done it myself. Of course, I still had these ingrained patterns to want the attention and approval of men. So I would continue to flirt with them and to dress in a way that I thought that they would think was attractive, even though I didn't want them, but I wanted their validation because unfortunately I was trained to value that. All this to say, the grief, the rage, the disappointment, all that stuff around your queerness, it will come out in weird ways, in messy ways, sometimes in ways that hurt other people around you. So it's really important not to skip over that and just go to all the pride parties and like have a good old silly time. Acknowledge the full spectrum of the queer experience. So mistake number 4 is not building queer dating skills. Dating women and femme people is not the same as dating men. I want to go back to that Reddit story that I read from earlier and read another piece of it. I don't get hit on in real life, no actual interest on the apps either, and I live in a major city, so that's not the issue. I have lesbian friends, but they are all already in relationships, of course. I didn't think it would be easy, but I thought I would get the chance to at least try dating women. I felt this so painfully when I first came out too. I was on the apps, messaging people. I don't think anyone ever messaged me first. It was really confusing for me. You need to update your idea of dating. Again, dating women and femmes is not like dating men. And there's a main reason for this. Most of us as women or non-binary folks who were socialized as women have been deeply affected by comphet. Now, you may have heard this if you've been around in the online world of late blooming lesbians, but comphet stands for compulsory heterosexuality. And it's the idea that in our society, heterosexuality is seen as the default way. And in fact, society is built around the man and woman relationship. The laws are made that way. The his and hers, bride and groom language, it's all built around the premise, the assumption that you will be in a heterosexual couple. You know that saying, America runs on Duncan? Society runs on comphet. That means that the way that we learn to socialize and interact with each other is also deeply influenced by comphet. So in dating, that means that you, as a woman, have been conditioned to be pursued by men, to wait for them to make the move, to be submissive, to attract them. That may or may not be your natural way of existing, your natural way of connecting and flirting. That may just be the way you were trained to act. So either way, that's what you're used to. You have likely had a lot of experiences that reinforce that idea that men pursue, women wait to be pursued. That does not apply in the lesbian world. Okay? Lock in with me on this. Let's have a heart to heart. If you are a femme presenting person like me, you have to make the first move if you expect to get in a queer relationship. You just have to. And you can be disappointed about that, and you can have feelings about it, but that's just the fact. And sure, there's someone somewhere who's like, someone approached me and now we're married. That's awesome. That is the exception, not the rule. So women will not flock to you in droves to ask you out. This will make you spiral and think, oh no, am I gay enough? Do I need to get an undercut? But you are gay enough. It doesn't matter if 0 people are approaching you or if 20 people are approaching you. The amount of people who hit on you does not determine how gay you are. Okay? I need you to hear that. So the only way to build this muscle of approaching women is to practice. And I know you're scared of sounding dumb, getting rejected, but I promise you, once you keep getting that experience of maybe someone says no, and you realize like, oh, I didn't die, that's slowly going to build this muscle of approaching people. And I know some of you are cute little bottoms and you don't want to do the pursuing and you want to be pursued, and that's fine. But there are ways to make a move that are inviting someone to pursue you instead of feeling like you're being pursued, right? There's an art to it. You can initiate a conversation in a way that's more submissive or in a way that's more dominant. Now, coming out late is not all doom, gloom, scary stuff. Let's get to the topic that you probably clicked on this video for: lesbian sex. I know you're probably looking for how to finger and oral techniques, and there are a lot of places to get that. There's a site called Beducated that specifically talks about sex skills. This is not sponsored. None of those tricks that you learn, none of those positions are going to make the sex actually mind-blowing unless you map your pleasure pathway. Let me explain. If you have been with a man previously before you came out and now you identify as a lesbian, you most likely have been enduring touch, sex, kisses, and other physical intimacy that you didn't really like, that you were doing for the sake of the relationship, that you were tolerating, but that didn't actually light you up inside. If you continuously do things that you don't actually like, your body's going to shut down. This happened to me. Every time I had sex with a man, I would just dissociate and wait for it to be over. When I came out, I knew that I didn't want to bring that pattern into my relationships with women. And I would have just carried over, same pattern, different gender, if I had not intentionally explored my pleasure pathway. So your number one sex assignment is to rediscover your own pleasure outside of performance for men, outside of a duty or an obligation, or doing it to make them happy and not cause a fight. Outside of all of that, everyone is so worried about what do you do? What's lesbian sex like? What do you do? Like, what am I supposed to do? Your first assignment is to get to know your own body. How do you like to be touched? What turns you on? What do you want to do to a woman? What do you want a woman to do to you? And sometimes you have very specific fantasies that you've been cooking up for a while, and that's cool. But for myself, I had no idea. I was like, I don't know. I want to like feel boobs, I guess, because boobs are hot. I didn't really know exactly what I wanted to feel. That's where we have the disconnect. Before you go worrying about what to do to someone else's body, spend time getting to know your own body first. And that's what your pleasure pathway is. Knowing exactly what you need emotionally, physically, mentally to feel the most pleasure that you can. Mapping this out is something that I help my clients do. And I'm going to break down with you how you can do it too. So step 1 is to get in touch with non-sexual pleasures. The way that we do one thing is the way we do everything. You've probably heard that quote before. So if you rush around during your day, disconnected from your body, just in your head, worrying about yesterday, tomorrow, 5 years from now, you're likely missing a whole bunch of opportunities to feel pleasure in your daily life. And you're going to carry that pattern into your sex life as well, getting stuck in your head, missing all the pleasure that's available to you. So sex is high stakes, right? It's vulnerable. So we want to practice outside of that arena where the stakes feel really low. So we start with non-sexual pleasure. For me, the easiest one to notice the pleasures in things that I do every day. So when I'm drinking my coffee, I sit with my mug in my hands. I feel the warmth on my palm. I breathe in the smell of the coffee. If it's colder, I watch the steam rise. I feel it warm up my belly when I drink it. These are all ways that I'm paying extra close attention to my sensations. It's allowing me to be more present in the moment. So all of me is here. My focus, my intention is here. And then my sensations in my body, I'm taking in the feelings that feel good to me. Another easy thing is savoring your food. Instead of eating it really fast while you're watching Netflix and on your phone and listening to a podcast all at the same time, really focus on your food, the textures, the taste, the smells, how it feels in your stomach when you eat it. If it feels good or if it feels like it's kind of upsetting you. These are all little ways that you can training your awareness and training your ability to absorb the pleasure that's available to you instead of speeding past it. And that's a skill that comes in handy when you're having sex. Step number 2, once you have that foundation of absorbing pleasure, we want to find out what really turns you on. So if you think about your fantasies, do you have a go-to fantasy or the type of porn that you watch? And fantasies, they don't have to be explicitly sexual. I've heard some people say like, oh, I don't have fantasies, when often what they think about a lot is being in nature, maybe naked, sunbathing on a rock with the breeze blowing through their hair. That's a fantasy. Anything that you keep finding yourself fantasizing about, whether it's explicitly sexual or not, there's a reason that your mind keeps going there. So really find out what that reason is. What are the feelings that you feel when you keep going to this fantasy? And those are the feelings that you can incorporate into your sex and make it extra exciting and fulfilling for you. Number 3 is make time to experiment. Now, this doesn't mean you have to spend an hour masturbating every day. This can be as little as 30 seconds. I'll give you an example. A few months ago, I have this really soft, like faux fur rug that I have by my bed because when I step off of it, I like the soft feeling on the bottoms of my feet. So one day I got up and I felt the urge to just lay on the rug and like feel the fur on my skin, not just my feet. And my first thought was, that's stupid. But then my second thought was, you know what? Fuck it. So I laid down and I just rolled around kind of like a dog and just felt the fur rug just rubbing on my skin. And it felt so nice. And then I got up and went about my day. And these experiments can be sexual, they can be non-sexual. The point of experimenting is to get yourself out of your typical routine. If you're looking to experiment sexually, you can do this by yourself. You don't need to have a partner. When you're by yourself, the next time that you're going to masturbate, maybe you have like that one way that you really like to do it. You come really fast and you can move on with your day. What if you experimented with edging yourself? So you're about to come and then you switch to a different sensation, maybe on your legs or on your belly, and you just drag it out. Or maybe you try different types of touch or different types of toys. It's great to know the one way that works for you. And it can also be fun to expand your library. That way you have all different things to choose from depending on your mood. And sometimes you learn things about yourself when you're with a partner and they do something and you're like, oh, I actually like that. I've never done that before. And that can be really fun. But I also want you to take it upon yourself to experiment and explore with your own body. That way you can be your number one advocate of knowing what you like. And if you do these steps, you will slowly map out your pleasure pathway so that you know exactly how to turn yourself on anytime you want. So a caveat to this is it is going to feel really challenging to map your pleasure pathway if your body is carrying a lot of unprocessed shame or trauma. So when you're dissociated from your body, it's going to be impossible to find out what actually brings you pleasure because you're numb. So once you've done some processing and you know exactly what you like, the last piece to hot, fun, confident intimacy in queer dating is the communication piece. And I'm not just talking about using I statements when you're trying to talk about your feelings. How do you communicate your erotic energy without shutting down out of nervousness or fear of being creepy? And this is where flirting comes in too. Flirting is a type of erotic communication. It involves what you say, but it also involves your body language. So once you do learn how to communicate that erotic energy, then you're going to feel more confident, and that's going to be magnetic, and it's going to make dating that much more fun for you. So we've covered a lot of different topics today, a lot of different layers of the newly queer dating experience. I'm thinking about creating a mini course specifically for late bloomer lesbians. just going a lot deeper into what we talked about today. If that sounds interesting to you, let me know in the comments. So if you're thinking, this sounds like my experience, how is she inside my head? If you want to work through your shame and build your queer confidence in your identity and in dating women, and you want a guide so it doesn't take you years and years and lots of embarrassing blunders like it did for me, then click the link below to book a connection call and we can talk about what it would look like to help you build the queer dating life of your dreams. Remember that it is very normal to feel like a baby deer wobbling around, feeling awkward and uncertain and a little scared and excited. That's all part of it. Queer dating is a crash course in self growth if you allow it to be. It's going to reflect to you the things that you like about yourself. It's going to reflect to you some patterns that maybe are getting in the way of deeper connection that you can work on. It is a wild ride, and it's ultimately about discovering yourself and having fun and making connections that make life more meaningful to you.